Hello and welcome to this video presentation. My name is Paul Brett. I'm a Senior Software Support Analyst supporting the Transformation Extender product from IBM. The topic for this video is querying LDAP servers with the ITX JNDI adapter. Feel free to reach out to me on popular social media channels at Paul Brett IBM. In this practical demonstration, I show how to take a simple LDAP server, I'm using OpenDS in this case, and then how to use the basic JNDI/LDAP example map, which you can find at the path on screen, and create a working example. This is not meant to serve as a comprehensive how-to guide, as the scope of such an undertaking would be too large. The original connection string of the example map is shown on screen, as well as the modified connection string that I eventually end up using. I'm going to start this demonstration with a remote view of my virtual machine running OpenDS and just quickly take you through the entries that I've made in there. If I open the control panel and log in, with the OpenDS product open, I can click on Manage Entries. You can see that my base DN is DC equals pbret, DC equals com. Underneath that I have a section called people, which is an organizational unit, so OU equals people, comma, DC equals pbret, comma, DC equals com. This will form part of our connection string later. As you can see, I have three people defined, myself, Steve James and Jane Moreau. If we just click on one of these entries, we have first name, last name, common name, and under description we have their job title. Let's start this demonstration in the ITX Design Studio, where you can see I have an empty workspace set up. I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to name this project JNDI. In my workspace you will now see that I have a JNDI subdirectory which is currently empty. In my ITX installation, under Examples Adapters JNDI LDAP, you will find an MMS and an MTT file for this project, which I'm going to pull in and customize to suit my need. When I refresh my project, I can now open the LDAP.mms file, and if I go into the LDAP get map, you will note that there is a connection string already in there. It's pointing to localhost, which is wrong, and several other details that we will need to change shortly. However, before I do that, let's save, build and run the map, wait for it to fail, and we will have a look at the trace file that is produced. It's m4jndi.mtr. Here we can see that localhost port 53, there's a connection problem. So let's change the URL first. Under URL we are going to change to the host name of the machine where I am hosting OpenDS, and the port number is 389. If I press enter, let's change the trace verbose to uppercase so it's easy to see. If I now save, build and run, it's still going to fail to retrieve anything, but for a different reason this time. If we open the trace again, you can see now that it cannot find the entry CN equals M4JNDI test. This was the provided URL, that's working, but the RDN here is completely wrong. Okay, so let's make another couple of changes. So instead of CN equals M4JNDI test, we're going to use that string that I showed earlier in the OpenDS program. Organizational unit equals people, comma, DC equals pbret, comma, DC equals com. Press enter. This should be better, but I believe it's still going to fail to retrieve what we want. Save, build and run. The map has completed successfully, but if we were to look at the output, or better still, a backup of the input that's been retrieved, we will see it does not contain the details that we want. Let's turn on backup now, set that to a map and to a unique file. Save, build and run. If we look in our project directory, you will see that we have a file that begins with MER and ends with .back. This is the backup that's being retrieved from the server. And if we have a look at it, it's pretty light on detail. It doesn't include any of the people that I wanted to see. Okay, so there's one more change that we need to make in the map. Here, where we're selecting to get the base, we don't want to get the base, we want to get the sub. If I click OK and save, build and run, if we now look at the new backup that's been created, you can see that it's 3 kilobytes instead of 1 kilobyte, i.e. it contains significantly more information. And if we have a quick look at it, we can see some of the details that we had in the DS server, such as the surname James, coming through. So now we can be confident that the input card is correctly retrieving the entries that we want to see. All we have to do is design an output card to query and map that data into the format that we want. So let's do that now. Here's a map that I created earlier. It's exactly the same connection string. But on the output side, I've designed a simple loop to loop around for each entry on the input side. And then within a functional map called f_each entry, I'm doing a lookup. I'm reading the data field where the attribute field equals CN. And I'm also doing a lookup of the data field where the attribute field equals description. This output card is writing to a file called output.txt, and if I save, build and run this map and open the output.txt, you will see that we get the 3 people, Paul Brett and his job description, Steve James and Jane Moreau. We have a header line as well, which I used the map to create by creating an index of the repeating group, dropping to a functional map called f_each entry 1 and putting in fixed names for the first row. So there we have it. That's how to use an ITX map and the JNDI adapter to query an LDAP server. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my video presentation today. If you found the content interesting and informative, please hit that like button. Perhaps leave me a comment. Consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, as I release content such as this on a regular basis. Feel free to reach out to me on popular social media channels at Paul Brett IBM. Thank you.